Meeting of order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Secretary, roll call.
All present.
Correspondence report.
There are a lot of things going on in that. There's a couple of Senate Education Committee schedules, a couple of public hearings. One is on, that relates to allowing representatives from certain federally chartered youth memberships to come in and talk about their organizations. The school district would have to set aside one day at the beginning of the school year. They're talking like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. Imagine 4-H, we used to have that kind of a program with 4-H, but things like that. There's another one about licensure, working as a paraprofessional. You could get a provisional license to teach to an individual who passes a background check, works as a paraprofessional for at least 3 days per week, for at least one school year, in a classroom, and is recommended for licensure by the principal. But Bill would help license, the person licensed to teach would have to teach only in the school district that recommended the individual for the license, which makes sense. The National Reading Program grants. I never heard of this one before, so this is new for me. The Department of Children and Families, that's new, the department, I'd never heard that one. Established a program to award grants for the provision of books to young children. Each grant would be no more than $10,000 each. Let's see. State aid under adjustments for full-time open enrollment. Under the current law, it has to be annually audited. So for 23-24, it was $8,618 that has to be transferred. For the next coming school year, it would be $10,000 that would have to be transferred. Now, I think, Amber, correct me if I'm wrong, but $10,000, that's more than what we get per student in state or federal aid, I think.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Okay, so it did go up a little, because at one point, it was more, that was more, and then came out of a local taxpayer, so that's good, okay. And then there's another thing being discussed about starting the school year. This was a little bit confusing for me, but I'm trying to understand it. If you started school before Labor Day, you couldn't start school before Labor Day, and you couldn't start until the Monday before Labor Day. So you couldn't start, I suppose, till Labor Day is usually the first Monday in September, so you couldn't start
Any earlier
than a week prior to that.
Yeah.
But if you do, there's always a if you do, you'd have to have the Friday off before Labor Day. And then the bill would change, the September 1st, with that September 1st start date, would be to the Monday before Labor Day. So and looking at that, there's so much with the tourist industry that is really driving that. There's another bill, there's discussing on instruction for among Americans and Asian Americans. Currently, we have to provide it for American Indians, Black Americans, and Hispanics, so people understand that culture. They want to add those two to it. Remember I talked about last year about guaranteeing admission to any university system school? Okay. Well, if this goes through, it's going to be a little bit of more requirement for schools, because they would have to rank in the top of their high school class. They'd have to rank kids, and some kids would have to be ranked at the end of their 11th grade. So that would be a little bit more complicated, work for local school districts. And then, last thing is, they're drafting legislation that would allow Wisconsin retirement systems who get their annuities to go back into the system. And they wouldn't have to suspend their annuities. And that would be for 5 years.
So retired.
Yeah,
People
retired
can come back.
teachers, retired park and rec directors, anything like that with the state. But and it never passed before because they didn't have to put money into the system. Now this one says that employers are required to make a full retirement contribution for retired annuitants.
Okay.
So we'll see where any of those roles go.
Yeah. Yeah, lots happening.
There's a lot going on.
Questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Moving on. Board Caesar report. Chrissy.
We met virtually this month due to the weather that was affecting us that week. The big agenda item that we approved was the Head Start selection criteria for the 24-25 school year, so that was one of our big action items. And then we reviewed the conference resolution and provided feedback to our CISA 7 delegate for his participation in that. Our breakout session for that meeting, or our learning for that meeting, was about all the special ed services that they provide. So I'm not sure how much Marie gets involved with CISA at all, but they talked about their RSN, Regional Special Education Network, and their goals for the next school year are to increase the number of internets and districts served and improve trust and consistency based on their survey results. And then they just kind of talked about some of their free services as well as for a fee, CISA 7 can provide nonviolent crisis intervention, coaching, and director consults. So really short meeting virtually, and everyone was focused on getting out to the conference.
Yeah.
Chrissy, when you went to this national, what were some of the really important things that you got out of? Because we just came back, from
Yeah.
Milwaukee.
For me personally, it was the relationship building that I got to deal with those. There were the executive director and 3 other directors from CISA 7 there, so really understanding that all of them had been principals, superintendents, and then joined the CISA. I learned a lot about their budgeting process and like how CISA's in Wisconsin have to make their money and to be able to serve the districts. And then a lot of the breakout sessions at that national convention were about like customer service, how to support your teachers in your districts, how to recruit more in rural areas. The big speakers, like the main stage ones, like you guys had the keynotes. Ours were about, we had Chef Bruno. He started serving spaghetti dinners to families in the somewhere in California, and you start small, start with one. He fed one kid a spaghetti dinner, and now he's doing like 8,000 a day. So your impact can be very great. You just start small and have a goal. The next one was talking about how well they changed their school district. I think she was from North Carolina. And then the other one was from Disney World, and she talked about how when you go to Disney and that experience of customer service, it's so consistent. The details on their name tag, how they treat people, how they pick up litter, how they hide from customers, right? They never show up in Toy Story Land in a princess outfit. They have underground tunnels to walk through. So kind of that customer satisfaction and meeting expectations of the districts, how it related back to CISAs and ESAs.
Good, sounds interesting.
It was good.
Who we had for one of our speakers.
The planner guy, I can't think of his name.
John,
You can never say his
I
last
can't
Oh.
think, I don't know how to pronounce it now.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking of Cubby, because you guys had Cubby
Oh,
too,
yeah,
right?
yeah, too, yes.
Yeah.
But I used to watch What Would You Do on TV, and then he said it's coming back.
Yeah.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
So
It's gonna rebroadcast starting February 18th. But yeah, it was an inspirational as well as
Yes.
super informative, and you guys will get to hear about some of it next meeting. We,
I checked the website today, the internet ones for reviewing weren't there yet, but the 2
Okay.
keynotes are
They're
part of that, and Jesse, yours must have been recorded too, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
That was,
So.
yeah.
Oh, he did very well.
Oh, good.
I was at the delegates.
Good.
All right, it does not look like Morgan was able to join us tonight, so Moving on, I don't have any misconceptions or rumors. Did anyone sign in to speak? I guess my announcements would just be what a wonderful experience again the convention was, which it always is. It was cold down there, but it was cold everywhere. But yeah, we got so much out of it. It's just so valuable, and I really, really hope that some of the newer board members can take advantage of it in the coming years, because it is more than worth your while. Moving on, administration reports.
We're gonna start with our fun annual audit completion. So we have Amber from CLA here to present, so I will turn it over to you.
Are you okay if I stay here? You want me to go somewhere else?
That's
Right
fine.
here? Okay. As Jesse said, my name is Amber Jaworski with CLA, the principal on the engagement. So I'm gonna go through this pretty high level, so if you have any questions, reach out, whether it's now or if you have questions after. Jesse and Amber both have that information, and happy to sit down and run through anything with you. So I believe you should have the bound documents for the district and for the AVA. I'm gonna start with the district's financial statements, and I'm gonna go to page 1, the independent auditor's report. We've audited the accompanying financial statements of the governmental activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the school district of Algoma as of and for the year ended June 30th, 2023. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the district as of June 30th, 2023. That's a clean, unmodified opinion. The rest of the report, this independent auditor's report, talks about the basis for our opinion. Obviously, we don't look at every transaction of the district, and it talks about the responsibilities of management. Management's responsible for the preparation and fair presentation. That's done through the signing of the rep letter at the end of the audit. Our responsibility is a nice full page of standard requirements, but basically to issue an opinion and then some additional reading language that I would recommend reading at night. So page 6, the one thing I do want to draw attention to on page 6 and 7, these are the district's government-wide financial statements, so not how you would adopt your budget. It includes all of your capital assets, your debt, and your Wisconsin retirement system proportionate share. I do just want to draw attention that you will see a net pension liability here for about 1.4 million. That is the Wisconsin retirement system proportionate share. It flipped for 2023 year ends. So, and that's just based off of the market, and that'll rotate. For the past 3 years, it had been fully funded. This year, I believe it was like 97% funded, and that's why they'll change the contributions year to year to manage that, and they usually keep it within a 5% window over or under. So it's a big number, so I always like to just say why, out of your control, but that has changed from the prior year. Page 8. So page 8 starts where your governmental funds, so how you adopt your budget, your general fund, your debt service funds. It summarizes your community service, your food service, and so forth. So the general fund at June 30th, 2023 had approximately $4 million in cash remaining, and total fund balance, so cash doesn't equal fund balance, but the fund balance of just shy of 4.5 million, with about 4.4 of that being unassigned. We'd like to look at the unassigned fund balance from a financial health standpoint. And your percentage, so we like to look at percentage of expenditures, you're at about 43%, which is a healthy fund balance. We had been for a long time saying about 15 to 25%. With inflation and everything going on in the market, I feel more comfortable recommending anything from 20 to 30, 35, depending upon your cash flow for your particular organization. So 43%, I think you're very healthy in that regard. You do have a Fund 46 that has about $227,000 in it as of December 31st, or excuse me, June 30th, 2023. So as you continue to identify projects and things that you can, or extra funding, continue to put money away in that fund, as that kind of alleviates that impact on your general fund going forward when some of those one-time capital items come into play. So a healthy fund balance there. Your referendum debt service has about $33,000. Very typical, you don't want to run a ton in there. And if you usually do, it's from premium bond issuances, so that is restricted for debt service payments. I mentioned your Fund 46, your donations fund, which includes your Fund 21 and Fund 60, which 60 has now moved into 21, has about 228,000 remaining, and food service about 307,000, and community service does have a deficit about 270 for that purchase of the daycare. So that is as expected within that fund, and it'll continue to be reduced. The general fund, from a how did it do during fiscal year 23, page 11, you can see the net change in fund balance was about 159,000, so a surplus there. Built that unassigned a little bit. Again, that's not a bad thing, and you want to continue to evaluate what those capital needs are going forward, and where those funding sources are going to come from. Are they going to come from some unassigned fund balance? Will they come from borrowings and so forth? But that unassigned fund balance gives you flexibility, so. Then on page 13 and 14, this lays out your employee benefit trust, so your OPEB, and you have a little bit in flex spending. But the OPEB trust had about just over $1 million in that fund remaining, still overfunded, so the district has not been making contributions at this point, but you always want to continue to evaluate that with your actuary to determine what that anticipated liability will be, and if you want to re-implement contributions at any point in time. That's kind of the financial picture. There is a detailed budget to actual for the special education and general fund, and I'm going to give you that page if I can get my fingers straight. Page 41 and 42 has a little bit more detail on that budget to actual, just for your reference. Then I'm going to go to the back on page 57. So as part of the audit, we also evaluate the district's internal controls. We don't issue an opinion on those internal controls, but we would be required to disclose any non-compliance or any findings that we have. So there was no issues of non-compliance, and we have the one significant deficiency, which is us preparing the financial statements. So very typical and nothing to be alarmed there. As always, there's verbal communication that we have throughout the audit and recommendations to implement. It just doesn't necessarily arise to the level of material weakness or significant deficiency. And a lot of that revolves around just reiterating the importance of segregation of duties, and from a review perspective, especially on grant claims and performance reporting. ESSER, for example, requires some additional performance reporting. I believe that's in the April timeframe, but just making sure that there's somebody looking and overseeing that. Those are ones that are easy to forget about. And then making sure that additional training is happening for departments or department leaders who are going out and applying for grants, that they understand the requirements and the financial policies of the district to make sure that they're being followed. Because the next piece, page 60, because the district receives over $750,000 in federal funds, we're required to do a federal and state single audit. So a lot of those funds are tested within these programs that we do. And they're selected on a rotational basis and risk basis based on the federal and state guidance. So at the top, again, we do issue an opinion on these programs, so on the federal and state. And in our opinion, School District of Algoma complied with in all material respects the compliance requirements within those federal and state programs that we tested. And I can tell you that the federal program was the ESSER program, and the state programs were special education and equalization aids that we looked at. So for 2023, we had no additional findings related to the single audit. Any questions on this document before I jump into the others? Then, the executive summary, so this is the stapled document. A lot of this is repetitive, so I'm gonna skip over that. I'm gonna go to page 2. And page 2 just summarizing the accounting policies, there were no new changes in accounting policies. However, we did evaluate the district for the impact of GASB Statement 96. And that related to subscription-based softwares. Very similar to the leases that were in play for fiscal year '22. But we did not have any material impact to the district. There was a past adjustment for the leases related to last year, but that just means it's over a certain threshold, we have to disclose it, but it's not material to the financial statements. And the disclosures that you add for some of these things with the leases and the subscriptions doesn't provide a whole lot of value to the user of the financial statements. So it's been a very common practice to have them considered a past adjustment or an uncorrected misstatement. Accounting estimates, the useful life of the capital assets, your net pension asset and liability with the Wisconsin retirement system, and your OPEB, the fair value of your investments, that is related to your OPEB funds within Nicolay. The uncorrected misstatement that I mentioned, no difficulties encountered in performing the audit. Everybody was very helpful and responsive, very efficient, so we appreciate that. No disagreements with management. Again, the rest of that is some summarized financial information that I already went through, and then the management representation letter. Any questions on the district before I jump into the?
I'm always happy to see the clean audit statement when I'm looking through this.
Then I'm gonna run through really the reports, very similar reports for the charter school. The independent auditor's report, again, in summary, a clean unmodified opinion for the charter school. That's pages 1 through 3. You can see on page 4, you have the grant receivable of about $25,000, and then obviously that's due back to the district with a net position of 0 at that point, which is the intention of how that should operate. There is the detail of the expenses on page 7. Obviously, most of that is the instruction costs of about $275,000. Total expenses of about $416,000, and the district subsidy comes out to about $296,000 after federal sources. Same thing for the charter school, internal control. We did not have any non-compliance, and the preparation of the annual financial report was the only finding that we included. And similar to the district, no disagreements, no difficulties or anything like that encountered in performing the audit, and no changes to accounting policies. Because the district owns basically everything, that GASB 96 statement is on the district side. I know that was fast, but any questions?
No, thank you.
I was just happy to see that the thinking on your fund balance has changed a bit. We always got, kind of chastised for our fund balance, but I'm happy to see that.
Yeah, I think during COVID, I think we learned a lot. I think sometimes some had the stance of too much fund balance, but I think with how quickly inflation took over, I think that kind of changed your thought a little bit, but also from a cash flow perspective. COVID really could have had an even bigger impact. It actually probably had a positive impact on most governments from a financial standpoint, helped them with the funding and so forth. Obviously some challenges from a budget standpoint with ESSER and things going forward, but from every other standpoint, it could have been detrimental with it going the other way and not having enough fund balance. So definitely something different to think about, but important.
Thank you.
Questions for her? Yeah, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. If any questions arise, feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber.
Thank you.
Now we have another Amber.
Good evening. So I just have your updated monthly financial report. Everything looks good within the budget. There's really not much to report. The percentages are a little bit low on the expenditure side for this time of year. You typically expect to see about 50%. but a lot of that is due to some annual payments that haven't been made yet. So like the liability insurance payment goes out in January, so it's not reflected on these December month end. So this is your December month end and your end of second quarter for the school year, or the fiscal year. So nothing jumped out, nothing looks really concerning to me. We're right on track for the operating funds. And I believe, Jesse, if you go to the next slide. Yep, our other funds, again, are doing good. You aren't gonna have a whole lot of expenditures in the debt fund until we get to that month where we make the payments out, which is later in the spring. Same thing with referendum debt. And our long-term capital, we do not have anything planned to spend out of that, so that's gonna stay at zero all year long. And then the fund balances, I did provide the printouts for everyone. This is just an update from last month. I'm gonna give this to you quarterly, because nothing's gonna change all that dramatically from month to month. So we're right on target. If you look at what was in fund balances in the report for fiscal year end of June 30th versus where we're at the end of the year in December, you will see that some of those balances did drop a little bit, but we are doing pretty good. We still have about 38% of the annual expenditures in fund balance reserves for general funds, so that's a good thing. And on the handout, I don't have this up on the slide, but on the handout is the graphs. I didn't put it on the slide because it's really hard to see up on the screen. Fund 50 is the only one I really want to draw your attention to. We are kind of dropping a little bit in the fund balance, which is a good thing. We had a little bit of extra there. The DPI said we needed to spend some of that, so it is starting to come back down a little bit, and it's going to come down a little bit more before we get to the end of the year. There was some equipment and sinks that need to be replaced on there that they're working on, so. All in all, everything is looking good.
Thank you, Amber. All right, to go along with what Amber shared out, I just want to give a quick referendum update relating to some of the financials and where we're at in terms of moving forward with that. So the election notice was submitted to the Press Gazette after the board adopted the resolution on January 8th. That's just one of the requirements. And then we also had to submit the sample ballot question to the county clerk. So that is completed already. Now we're moving full speed into the communication plan for the educational campaign. And so what that's going to look like is these are just some examples that we're working on. There's going to be many more that will fall into this category, but the Wolf Review is we're hoping to go out in the first week of February. The administrative team is working on that piece and getting that put together and then off to the printer. We're working on an educational video that's being developed with CISA 7. I actually had a meeting this morning to follow up, and we're finalizing the script and putting the images into that right now. My hope is that we're going to have 2 students be the narrators of that. So that's exciting. Looking at trying to speak at different community events, whether that's maybe through organizations or the chamber, those types of things. I will be asking board members if they are available to be at some of those as well, so I'll be in touch with you in the coming days on that. We're looking at doing a mailer that will be sent out to all households in early March, followed up with a postcard that'll go out at late March then. Just a reminder to go out and vote. And then our website and Facebook page are going to be updated frequently. I would say the website is probably the best place to go to for up-to-date information. So. Any questions about referenda? Going fast. April 2nd will be here before we know it, so. All right, I want to jump into open enrollment seats. So each year the board needs to approve the number of seats for open enrollment for the following school year. So we're looking at what we are allowing for 24-25. As you can see on the screen, and I know this is small, so I apologize for that, but these are our current enrollments per grade level right now. So you can see how we range. Our lowest grade right now is 4K at 29. And then we go all the way up to, I believe, 55 is the highest at 8th grade that we have right now. Interesting, they did a ratio of students to teachers. So you can see the number of students again listed. This is just for the elementary school to the number of teachers. And our ratio obviously is smallest in our youngest grades. and as they go up, they get a little bit higher, so. Anywhere from 10 to 1 all the way up to 16 to 1. And then looking at our current special education enrollments per grade level, you can see the number of students that are identified in special education, meaning that they have a individual education plan. And we also have students that are identified as speech only. So those are the two columns you can see there. And you'll see why those are important in the next coming slides here. So our recommendations for the elementary school to maintain our staffing ratios, where we're at, we are projecting or hoping that we would allow these numbers per grade level. So in early childhood, we would allow 3. In 4K, we could take up to 10. 5K, we could take 12. First grade, we would take 2. Second grade, 6. Third grade, 2. Fourth grade, 7. Fifth grade, 6. And sixth grade, 6. When you get over to the special education, we would only be closed for 4th grade, and that's based off our current special education numbers in 3rd grade. It just seems to be a very high class number of students in that class who have significant needs, and so we want to close to just the 4th grade. And then for speech only, we would allow 3 throughout the all grade levels for the elementary. For our middle school and high school, it's a little different because they run a different schedule, obviously, where there are more block periods. And so we would allow up to 10 for each grade. The likelihood of reaching that capacity, I highly doubt we would get to that point where we would have to close. But 5 for 7th through 12th. For special ed, we would cap it at 5. Speech and only, again, at 3 each grade level. Then you also see the Algoma Venture Academy to the far right. Based off of our contract for Algoma Venture Academy, we can take up to, is it 45 students, I believe, Katie? 45. And so right now we would take 2 for 7th, 2 for 8th, 2 for 9th, and then 1 for 10th, 11th, and 12th. And that will bring us up to that 45 is what we're projected. So any questions about that? All right, that is an action item later on in the agenda that we would be asking you to take a vote on. The last thing I have is the Human Growth and Development curriculum for the district. So we had a citizen advisory committee meet on January 11th. It was made up of 2 board members, myself, administration, some teachers who are currently teaching our human growth and development, and then some parents as well, and our physician that's assigned to the district as well. And so after talking with them and going through what we currently are teaching and our practices for human growth and development, we also took a look at what Candor Health Education can offer. It's an online program that's based out of Illinois. Very, very exciting new things that they're trying. We are recommending as an advisory committee to move forward with with Candor Health. We would do puberty 1 at grade 4, puberty 2 at grade 5, human reproduction and embryology at grade 6, teen sexual health 1 at grade 7, and teen sexual health 2 at grade 8. So you can see there's a progression as the students go on. And what's nice is the Candor review is every year kind of what was taught. So if we have students that move in the middle of say they move into 5th grade, they still get an understanding of what was taught in 4th grade too. Chrissy and Barb, would you like to add anything else? Because you were part of that committee.
It seemed like a great tool for our teachers to be able to use. We can do it live, virtually, or it could be a recorded session and played back on a teacher's timeline, but highly confidential for the students to be able to submit their questions. Neat and a little bit more interactive. The website was phenomenal, so if you go out to Candor, right, you can Google it, and they just have a bunch of free information out there too for people to review on what's being taught in these classes. And one thing that you didn't note on, I think the teacher's preference was this is a spring semester, end of 4th grade teaching, end of 5th grade teaching, so they're a little bit older when they do get that education program.
Yeah, the the fact that things are available online so parents can preview every course, they have the ability for parents to ask questions to them, about the programs if they have some questions before the programs are done. So I think, I think it's gonna be a good change.
And talking with the teachers, it takes some of that pressure off them as well. They are not experts in this field. It's an important topic to have with our students at this age level, but it can also be somewhat awkward for both the student and for the teacher going through this. So having that third person come in, whether it's through a virtual, live on the screen that the students will be logging into, or some type of recorded, would be beneficial, I think.
And a very consistent message from that organization.
Yeah, and student-friendly language too. It's very.
Grade appropriate.
So I'm assuming that, because I would imagine this could be kind of a controversial topic in today's climate. I'm assuming then that parents would be able to access the curriculum
Absolutely.
and the content.
That's the great thing about it. They
Okay.
can see, they can preview the entire curriculum online. They can ask questions directly to Candor about it before their child's in it. And they also, I think, didn't they say that they had recommendations online for after the courses, what the parents might want to continue or discuss with the
Yep,
kids?
and I think they help with the message that goes out to parents for the sign off of their fourth, fifth, sixth grader to attend the course. They will help us with that communication.
And
So-
parents have to sign on. So then obviously it tells me there might be an opt-out if parents don't want.
Oh, sure.
It-
Which there always is.
Always.
Yeah.
That's what I'm understanding.
There is right now, I believe, so
Yeah.
it just is, yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, the consistency of the information, and like Jesse said, taking it off of the, since it can be sort of a sensitive subject, taking it off the backs of the teachers in terms of that. Yeah, I think we'll give it a try. Any other questions? All right, moving on, elementary principals report. Katie?
Okay, I am going to start with our AGR program goals and update. In front of you tonight, I put just a brief report. The goals you have seen before, but I did want to provide just an update now that we have completed our mid-year assessments in grades K through 3. So if you look in the column that is titled grade level, you'll see that there's a blue section that says mid-year meeting benchmark. The way that all of our screeners work is that there is a beginning of the year benchmark, that increases a little bit, there's a middle of the year benchmark, and then that increases even further, and then there's the end of the year benchmark. So all of the goals have been written for the end of the year benchmark, but I'm gonna just provide just an update on how the students are doing at the mid-year, which is a projector, a good predictor as to how the students will be doing at the end of the year. So in kindergarten, you can see that in math, we have 70% of our students that are meeting the benchmark, and in reading we have 75% meeting benchmark. In first grade, in math, we have 76% meeting benchmark, and in reading we have 56 meeting benchmark. In second grade, in math, we have 61% meeting benchmark, and in reading we have 40% meeting benchmark. And then in third grade in math, we have 73% meeting benchmark, and then reading, we have 47% meeting benchmark. A couple of things just to point out about that data, specifically with math. As you know, we have implemented a new curriculum last year for grades 4K through second grade. This year, we extended that through fourth grade. So I just wanted to look specifically at second and third grade. If you take a look at the math percentage at the mid-year, in second grade, at the beginning of the year, we were only at 43%, and now mid-year we're at 61%, so that's quite a big jump in a positive direction. And then in third grade, beginning of the year in math, we were at 59% meeting benchmark, and we're now at 73% meeting benchmark. So I think those are all, obviously it's just one indicator of how the students are doing. But I know that there have been quite a few questions about the new math curriculum and kind of how it's been going. I think these are just small pieces of evidence that show that we are moving in a good direction with that. And then just the other thing I wanted to comment on was also in second and third grade, the reading percentage, as you can see, being much lower than kind of the outliers, I guess you could say, if you look at the other numbers. And there's a couple different things to note about that. One thing to mention is that our reading interventionists, so Mrs. Herman and Mrs. Schultz, they currently are working with, I'll rephrase that, the majority of the students that they're working with and providing additional support for are in those grade levels specifically, because as you can see, the data definitely supports that. We do have higher percentages of different subgroups in those grade levels as well, so very diverse needs of students, but just something that we're continuing to work on. And the complexity of the nuts and bolts of reading in kindergarten and first grade to like the comprehension strategies needed by third grade, there's just a really wide range there. So it's not totally atypical for there to be just a little bit of a struggle there as well. So any questions on that? Okay, and then just the second thing I wanted to report out on more data, not really data, but we'll produce us some data. 2024 state assessments, so now that we are in the second semester, we are kind of hitting the ground running with planning for and getting ready for all of these different assessments that our students are required to take. So already we have our ELL students taking the access test. So Frances Nazario I think she's finished at the middle high school and she's now working at the elementary school to get those students assessed. We have in March the ACT assessment for grade 11. And then in April will be the forward exam for grades 3 through 8 and also grade 10. And then also in April is the pre-ACT for grades 9 and 10. So for those larger assessments, we're just in the initial planning stages. Actually this Friday, I believe, the DPI will upload all of our student data into the different platforms. And then we can start getting everything situated. So just a quick update on that as that gets underway. So that's all for me.
Okay, any questions for Katie? All right, we will move on. Middle school, high school, report. Dave?
All right, you'd asked about our technology department or our tech ed department. And so tonight we have Mr. Tyler Matthews here who's going to do a presentation on what sort of his vision is for the department and what steps he's taking to make that happen. So I'm going to introduce Tyler and have him take over here for a few minutes.
Where do you want me?
You can go probably over there to be best at that screen.
Like that one right here?
Yeah.
Great, and I can look over it.
Yep, make it look like I know what I'm doing.
So like Dave said, I'm Tyler Matthews. I'm your guys' tech ed teacher here at the middle school and the high school. So hopefully what I'm giving you is easy to understand and kind of gives you an idea of what my thoughts are and where I think we can go with this program. If you guys do have questions moving forward, just please let me know. I'm always open to letting you guys know. So overall, kind of what I try to bring to each one of my classes is starting off with the principles and the concept of the subject. So regardless if it's a middle school class, if it's a high school class, especially coming in now because, students have had tech ed before, but they haven't had it with me. So I'm trying to get them all on the same page moving forward. So what I try to teach them is principles and concepts. So the basics, the building blocks. What do you have to know to be successful in this class? Whether you want to do it as a career, you're just taking it as a class because you want to have fun and get out of that traditional setting. Those principles and those concepts I then reinforce through projects. Okay? I don't just sit here and go, okay, it's time to go out in the shop and we spend the entire class time out in the shop. There's going to be days where I'm going to have them sitting in the classroom and we're going to be learning things. It's usually the days that the kids grown about, but hopefully down the road they realize, oh, that's why we sat and did that. One of the big things is measurement. Students forget measurement all the time. I forget it sometimes. I worked in construction for several years, and there were guys that did that job, they said, for 20 years, and they couldn't read a tape measure consistently. So that's definitely something that I try to reinforce, and we hit every year. Safety obviously is a huge component of that class, each one of those classes, and I go over that and I hit it hard, drill it into those kids. And I try to reinforce those concepts I teach them in class through the project. So the projects just kind of add to what I'm teaching. It's not necessarily the main focus. It's try to reinforcing those concepts. So hopefully then, my end goal at the end of each class is they understand the process of, we learn the safety, we learn the measurement, we learn the basics, and now I have this finished project. And my hope is, and if I did my job right, they understand how they got from point A to point B, so that when they want to go and do this in the future, or they want to take another class and move on to the next level, they already have that in their back pocket that they can draw from and go without me having to say, okay, step number 1 is what now? So hopefully by the time they get to be a senior, it's pretty much, all right, what do you need from me? What materials do you need? What machines do you need? Whatever. And they're just running off and doing it themselves. Like I say, again, setting that up for further growth. So, and this is something this little graphic here is something that I added in here kind of last minute. I know it's not on your guys' sheet, but this was something that previous department head that I worked with in Green Bay showed me. Doesn't necessarily apply to every single one of my classes, but I try to incorporate the majority of that into most of the classes. So critical thinking, that's going to be their projects. They got to problem solve as they're out in the shop. Oh no, I cut something too short. What do I do? Well, can you fix it? You have to get a new piece. All these different things that come up. How are you going to fix it? Their literacy, and I don't always necessarily mean reading when I talk literacy, but it's how to read prints. If I hand them a drawing or a set of blueprints, can they build what I'm asking them to build without too much hesitation? With that, can they make their own drawings? Can they make their own plans? And that's something that I'm working into, especially with that 3D design class. I'll touch on that in a little bit. Is getting them to draw those plans and understand how to draw plans correctly, so that they understand them 3 weeks down the road, or they could hand them off to somebody else, and that other individual could potentially build that off of that. And then also, go back. You're jumping ahead of me there. Research. So I do a little bit of research projects every now and again, just to kind of reinforce that, but just to show them, like, hey, if you want to build something, I do not have all the answers. I do not know everything. I don't try to. So there's going to be times where I say, okay, if you want to build this, figure out how to do it. Go do some research, see what's been done before. Great example, I had a student in Wolf Tech this past semester, wanted to build a speaker box for his subwoofers. I had never built a speaker box before. I know it's a box, but I don't know what else goes into it. So I said, go out and research it. We went out and researched it, we figured out how to make it. So, and then the last bit is going to be the programming side of things. So teaching G-code, which is just kind of a language that machines and CNC machines utilize to, manufacture parts. That's kind of really like the very basic definition of it. CAD, computer-aided drafting, and then obviously CNC operation, adding that in as much as you can. So the laser engraver, the CNC router in the wood shop, the CNC plasma cutter in the metal shop. Moving on, so there you go. All right, so just to kind of go through and give you kind of a class-by-class look at what I'm trying to do and what I've kind of done so far already. So middle school woods, which is the intro class, the intro to woodworking. So obviously, like I said, first off, safety and measurement is very important to me, because those, if they don't learn that early, then we kind of have issues moving down. So I really hit that hard. Safety and measurement, then how do you square up a board? If you've never done woodworking, the board may look square, but it's usually not, even if they say it has a factory edge on it. So how do you get that board so it's nice and square? so you can work with it and do the things and make it look like the nice cabinet or the nice piece of furniture, whatever it is you're making. Trying to teach them how to do a glue up the correct way so that it looks nice. It doesn't look like you took 6 different pieces of wood and threw them together in a random order. You know, it tries to look somewhat normal and like a single piece of wood. And then kind of, how do you not overuse the glue and have to stand there for 3 hours scraping and sanding? Try to teach them proper finishing and sanding techniques. I know they kind of look at that and they go, well, it's sanding, how hard can it be? Well, you can ruin a project very easily. I had a few students that kind of found that out the hard way. This past semester, they have, you know, where they went against the grain, and it's like, well, this is what I told you. Luckily, we could fix it, but. And then, so just a couple quick examples of some of the projects that that I would like to get accomplished in here. So the first off, looking at the top is gonna be the display shelves. That was actually, I kind of threw it out to the students, like, hey, what would you like to build? And I had several students that said, you know, what about a shelf, something we can set trophies on or hang our medals from or whatever. So we did that. And then to kind of do our second project, the students worked on building this little laptop riser stand, whatever you want to call it. More or less they got it finished. We unfortunately kind of ran out of time this semester, but most of them are back with me for medals, so we're going to finish that when we have some downtime next semester. And this bottom corner was originally what their second project was going to be. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to complete that, so I switched it up. And that is just it's kind of like a little TV tray, but it slides underneath the table, so you bring, or underneath the couch, so it comes a little bit closer to you when you're sitting. So that's kind of what, at least projects right now, but they'll probably get changed up from time to time, because I get bored teaching the same thing, and you know, keeps things more interesting for me. So. All right, so right now what I'm kind of doing, I'm calling it Woods 1, because Intro to Woods and Fundamentals of Woods in my head just makes it really confusing, but this would be the fundamentals of woodworking or the high school woods. So again, safety and measurement, that's going to be a little bit more of a review for them. I do add in a couple of machines that I don't usually do with the middle schoolers. And then we start talking a little bit about basic joinery, miter joints, butt joints, tongue and groove, different types of joints that they're going to utilize in woodworking, and get them familiar with it. Not necessarily that we're going to produce those or always use them, but so that they know what they are and why would you use this one over another one. We talk about material selection. Why are you going hardwood versus softwood? What are the benefits? What are the downsides to these? Why should you choose say a tight grain wood versus an open grain wood for cutting boards? Why are you looking at these materials? And then project calculation. How do you keep track? How do you know how much lumber to order? How do you figure out the cost of the total project? And then not only for that, just to see how much it costs and they can keep track of it, but then also if they want to start doing woodworking on the side, how can you look at making money? How do you make a profit doing something like this? So that's kind of step one in that. Projects that we completed this year, unfortunately we only got one done, but in the future I'll have things a little better planned out and we'll get 2. So the first one is these nesting patio chairs. I've done them before, kids have had a lot of fun with them. I thought for the most part they turned out really great. Might even look at doing something like that with Wolfpack in the future, maybe trying to sell them off. So we'll kind of see where that goes. And then the second one, this is not the exact product that I'd be looking at doing, but it's something similar where they're making like a bench kind of bench end table type of piece of furniture that would be similar to that, but a little bit different and include a little bit more of that joinery that we discussed during that class. All right, so then next up would be middle school manufacturing. So my hope with this is to be able to combine both the metal shop and the wood shop into one class. So ideally, those students have taken, by the time they get to 8th grade, they've taken intro to woodworking and intro to metal shop, and then we can utilize both. But I'm not gonna restrict it to students that have only taken both because, hey, things happen. But I'd like to combine them both. This year, I only utilize the wood shop. Moving forward, I'm gonna utilize both, or at least that's the plan right now. And what I wanna do with this is show those students, how does a product go from design to manufacturing to completion? And we look at manufacturing processes in there, different jobs that are related to that. How does everybody fit into this? And then completing a mass manufacturing project. So the way that I did it this year was students were broken up into groups. We had a project, we kind of selected a project as a class, went through, all right, you guys, this group's gonna make this part, this group's gonna make that part. We talked about jigs and fixtures, how do you keep things consistent, quality control, and we went out and manufactured that, made a lot of sawdust in the process of it. And they learned very, very quickly that you can go fast, but in the end, the part that you made might not be the part you get. You might get somebody else's part that they made, and theirs might be a little off, so that quality control really comes into play, so. And again, that's kind of that whole learning process, and trying to show them that you have to take your time and work efficiently, not just fast, you have to do good work, so. All right, then kind of moving on back up into high school, so cabinetry and furniture design, this was actually in with the Woods 1 class. I think I only had like 4 students that were in there. My hope and my plan is to try and grow this into its own separate class and not have to have 3 or 4 students in with that Woods 1 class. Again, covering safety and measurement, by this time, it should just be a review for them. So it's just kind of, shaking the rust off from over the summer. Talking a little bit more about advanced joinery, looking more at kind of how would you construct cabinets, doors, and drawer construction. Even though it sounds simple, how do you make it do what you want it to do? Ideally, what the project I have in mind for this would be a nightstand, kind of a nightstand base cabinet, where they actually have to make the shelf, produce the drawers, do the door, and all the other pieces and joinery that goes into that. This time around with the students that I had, I kind of threw it to them and said, what would you like to make while you're in here? None of them really had any ideas. I said, well, hey, I could use some new shop furniture for some storage. So 2 of them worked together and created a cabinet similar to this to go underneath one of the table saws so we can store a bunch of the extra items and tools and extra saw blades and things like that go with the table saw, so they're a little closer in reach, but they're not just piled up on the floor or on the side of the table saw. And then one of the other students worked on making a slightly smaller version of this drill charging station just to keep things a little more organized. And keep fasteners, drill bits, all that kind of stuff all in one spot. And then another student, I did not have a photo of it or couldn't find one that represented what he made, but he made a sandpaper storage organizer for me so that it's not just a cluttered mess. And it's a little easier for students to find individual grits. They just pull it out and off they go. So right now, the metal shop, and if you haven't already figured out, I went by semester. So now these are classes that I have not yet taught. So these are really definitely plans in my head moving forward. I'll have a little bit better idea of what's gonna go on after, we get about halfway through the semester. But again, safety and measurement, if you haven't figured it out, it's gonna be on every single slide. But then right now, what my plan is with this intro to metal shop is to do kind of split the class in half, go a little bit into some sheet metal work fabrication, and then also some welding, just get them out there making sparks, running some beads. So projects looking at that is gonna be making a toolbox, real simple, real kind of standard toolbox. And then also some dustbands. Every shop needs some dustbands, and I go through them like crazy, so, you know, not only are they gonna learn something, but then something we can use in the shop and hopefully be around for several years, so. And then for the welding side of it, I'm gonna have them make, just a simple desk organizer out of some square tubing, do some welding. And then I've also talked with the business teacher, and we're kind of in the process of potentially doing a little bit of a collaboration, lawn art, Mother's Day kind of thing. Still gotta iron out all the details on that, so. Welding and fabrication is a high school level. Again, safety measurement, wanna hit them hard on print reading. How do you read a welding blueprint? How do you read fabrication blueprints? Welding types, welding joints, and right now, project that I'm looking at having them doing, aside from welding up the different types of joints, is going to be creating a fire ring, utilizing the CNC plasma cutter, and then also making those kind of campfire steak grills. You can put the steak in and raise that thing up and down. So that is kind of my hope with that. And if you kind of haven't noticed a trend with the projects, my whole thing with the project is I want them to be projects that are fun for them to do, they learn things out, but they're also gonna take them home and use them. You know, if they're making something and they're not using it, if it's sitting in a closet or in a back room or in a box, great, I'm happy you made it, but, you know, I want it to be something you're gonna actually use and want to have out and you know, utilize for years to come. So, 3D design, so hand drafting and drawing is where I'm gonna kind of start off first, and I'm gonna split the class into two sections, kind of first quarter, or third quarter, fourth quarter. Third quarter is gonna be more hand drafting and drawing, looking at measurement, scales, how do you add dimensions, how do you do things by hand, and then move on to fourth quarter. It probably won't go the whole quarter, but that's just kind of my timeline right now. Moving into computer-aided drafting, CAD work, and then utilizing our CAM machines, computer-aided manufacturing, so our different CNC-related things. So again, the router in the wood shop, laser engraver, CNC plasma cutter, 3D printers, utilizing those for some different projects. What those specific projects are at this point in time, I'm not 100% sure. So I'm kind of thinking I'm gonna throw it to them and say, hey, what are some things that you guys would like to make utilizing these machines? I have some ideas in my head, but I'm gonna kind of see where they maybe would like to take some of the lead on, so. All right, this one does not exist right now. This is one of my plans that I want to bring in, and I'm for sure, you know, I've already talked with Jesse and Dave quite a bit about this, but I want to bring in a machining class. I know it's been here before, but I want to bring it back. So of course, safety and measurement and print reading are going to be big in there, and then discussing the different types of machining processes, so milling, lathe work, drilling, etc. Definitely want to hit on the vertical mill and lathe work in terms of projects, and then also start to do a little bit of basic CNC work and basic G coding, utilizing some different machines with that. So I know we don't really have the equipment for that right now. My hope is that we can get that eventually, and what I want to do with that is bring in some manual mills, manual lathes, get those kids out there turning and machining parts by hand, then put them onto the G code and the CNC machines. And I've talked to several people in the machining industry, and they go, we can teach anybody how to run a CNC machine. We can't teach everybody how to run a part very easily. So in my experience, if they can do it by hand, they seem to do a lot better when it comes to machining on CNC. I'm no machinist, I don't claim to be, but my hope is that we can get them turning things by hand so they kind of understand the axes, you know, X, Y, Z, and then feeds and speeds. And then when it goes into the G coding and the CNC, they understand what all those numbers mean when the computer program spits it back out at them. So. Wolf Tech, I will admit, this is definitely, and no pun intended, this is definitely a new animal for me. Coming in, especially where I'm the one-man show here. But right now, what my kind of plan is I want to keep it going. I like the class. I like how it's kind of, open to interpretation. I want to use it somewhat as a capstone-like class. So my hope is that, and I know right now, it's open to students, I think 9 through 12, correct me if I'm wrong. My hope is that maybe it's kind of more the sophomore through senior, but I definitely won't turn away a freshman if they sign up for it. But we utilize it as a capstone-like class where the students are going to be the ones coming up with the projects, and I'm just here as the facilitator. What do we need to, what do you want to make? What shop do you need? What materials do you need? What do you need my help from? Okay, go design it, go do it. Definitely want to continue the jobs from the outside clients. I like that, especially if we have some, walls and things. Or we have students that, they're like, hey, I just don't know what I want to make. I just want to be in these shops and, use the equipment. Which is totally fine with me, and I like that. I like being able to kind of say, hey, look what our kids, look what our students are doing here. Right now, we have 2 jobs with Forestville Builders going on right now. We are cutting out, I wish I knew exactly what they were for, but we're cutting out some acrylic sheets down into these little strips that are going into some grocery stores all across the country that as they're building them. And then the second job that we have is we're cutting out some letters that are going to be mounted on a 3D wall map for, I believe it's Myron Construction over one of the big offices over in, I think, the Eau Claire area. So we're working on that. Harborview Charters right now in Kiwanee has reached out to me. They want to have some Yeti cups engraved with their company logo on it, and they said, hey, we heard you do this. Is this something you want to do? Sure. We just got to figure out how to get the Yeti cups, and then once we get that, we're going to start cranking those out. So I know we have a couple other jobs that are coming down the pipes, but I don't know for sure if they're going to work out just yet. So we'll kind of keep those under wraps until I know for sure. But so that's kind of where I'm looking at with that. Especially for tech ed, I know that partnerships are really important, not only because getting kids out into those jobs, but also hopefully getting a little bit in return to kind of help us offset the costs on things. So I know we have that partnership with Olsa Fabrication. I would really love to include Precision Machine with that as well, and hopefully get some help from them with setting up that machining class. CTI, I want to leverage these local companies to help, get these kids excited, get them jobs, get them apprenticeships. Even if those kids end up moving away, hopefully we can say, hey, they got their start here locally, and they got their help from somebody here locally. So, and it's a short list right now, but hopefully we can kind of, my hope is we can kind of grow it over the coming years. So, any questions?
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Back in the day, a few years ago, we used to have these community nights that
Mhm.
Wolf Tech would put on, and people could sign up and they would make a lawn ornament or any idea of maybe trying to bring that back, put that in your back pocket for future?
Yeah, I know, looking through the Facebook page, I know that was something that was
was
done
very popular.
previously. I'm definitely not opposed to it, and right now, I guess to use your term, probably put that in my back pocket for just a little bit, just so I can kind of get things a little more straightened up, and kind of rolling classes wise, maybe next year, second semester, maybe the year after, but it's definitely something that I'm not opposed to. And then that also kind of jogged my memory. I would like to, moving forward, with the Wolf Tech students at the end of each semester, or around that time, like to do some sort of, kind of like a trade show or something where we say, hey, come in, check out what these kids are doing. If they make things that they want to sell, great. If not, we can just show off and say, hey, here's what we're doing. So,
It gave the community members an opportunity to see exactly what we're doing in the school.
Exactly.
And that's, you know, it's always a good thing when
Exactly.
they have that, so.
Businesses, is that something that you reached out, talked to them? Not yet?
I have not, and I will say that's definitely something that is not my forte. This is the first time in my teaching career where I've been kind of the main point of contact. Usually somebody else has always done that, and they're like, hey, we got you this, so. Moving forward, yep, that is something that I do have on my plans, to reach out to these businesses, talk to them. Hey, I'm the guy. What do you know, what can we do? What can you do? How are you willing to help? What can we do for you? So slowly but surely, I'm getting there.
We realize this is your first semester with us, and it sounds like you've got some great plans, and you're already doing some really cool things with the students, so thank you.
That's my hope.
Anybody else? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Do you want me to stand up too, or am I good here?
No, you have to
Okay,
stay.
you're fine. Okay. Well, hi. I'm also very new here, so 3 months in, figured, well, let's tackle a 47-page document and give it a nice new uplift and try and see what we can add to it. So please feel free to interrupt me at any time. My goal here is to just kind of talk about what's going to be changing or what has changed to the course handbook from last year. So right off the bat, on page number 7 is the agriculture education courses. So there's going to be 5 new courses for high school and 1 new course for middle school. That intro to ag class for middle school is going to be included in a rotation with the family and consumer sciences and business ed. That is for 7th and 8th grades. So 1 hour every single day. Each grade is going to be split into thirds, and each third is going to start with a different area. So one might start with ag, one might start with business, and one might start with family consumer science, and then a third of the way through the semester, they'll switch. So it's about every 6 weeks, they'll be with a new course topic. So ag is going to be put in front of students right away to hopefully grab and catch their attention, so that way when they get to high school, we'll have greater numbers in our course offerings in that department. So then on page 9, with business education, so about 2 new classes for high school, being accounting 1, and then marketing principles. So marketing principles, we're just kind of revamping. This year we're offering event marketing, but we're figuring with just doing a marketing principles, it's a little bit more broad, catch-all, and hopefully a little bit more versatile for students who might be considering the marketing path. The same with accounting principles. We're going to include, if that course is actually not just going to be a semester, it's going to be year-long, and students will be able to earn 4 transcribed credits through NWTC. And there is going to be a small section of this course that's going to be touching on QuickBooks. So hopefully helping students who are thinking about going into the business world, HR, they'll have their first little taste of QuickBooks. Also doing a little bit of revamping with personal finance literature. So DPI kind of came out with a new stipulation that they want all graduating students to have a course in personal financial literacy by 2028. Thankfully, we already had that nice and activated here in our school district. But in speaking with our business ed teacher, she felt like there's a lot to be covered in that course. So we are going to be extending personal financial literacy, the graduation requirement, for a full semester. And it was previously combined with career planning in one semester. We're going to put career planning with brand development. So we're going to be in that course telling students, all about the opportunities out there, thinking about future careers, and then once you kind of know, what you might like to go into in terms of a career or profession, how do you market yourself? How do you develop your own personal brand to make yourself employable? So that's what's going on in the business education world. Moving on then to page 24 with music.
introducing two new classes in the music education department. Working with Miss Massey and Miss Bader. They kind of want to do a year-long offering, starting in the fall with strings and keys. This class is going to be kind of an introductory for students who are interested in learning the guitar, the bass, and the piano. So something that's never been offered before, but we do have quite a few students who've expressed interest this year alone, and they want to learn the guitar. They want to pick up more of like a garage band music experience, have you. So in the fall, students interested will be working with either teacher there, and then if kind of it's a good fit for them or they're really catching on, then they would continue into the spring semester with more of an independent music study and building on those skills. Also there, right below on page 24 is integrated science, so moving into the science department. Integrated science is going to be more of like a remedial entryway science course. So oftentimes freshmen take physical science 9 and biology 9. This class is going to take more of a, how would you phrase it? An entry-level step into this curriculum. So students are going to be referred to this course by our middle school science instructor, and he's going to be then working with those students, making sure that they have the basic science foundation to move on to biology 10 and physical science 10 their sophomore year. Any questions at all so far? Also in the science department, if you flip to page 26, is Intro to Organic Chemistry. So this one actually came to us, Mr. Chris Robinson was thinking about how do I best prepare my students to go to college. A lot of students who enter the medical field, at one point or another, they run into Intro to Organic Chemistry, and it is by far one of the hardest classes you run into. And so he wants to try and offer students an experience where they're gonna at least, while they might not grasp a lot of the concepts of organic chemistry, they're at least going to have those basic building blocks and foundation, so that when they get to college, they're not totally deterred if they struggle in the class, because I know from my personal experience, I had multiple colleagues in college who wanted to go into the nursing field, and they took OChem and then they did not do well, and they're like, I can't be this profession. And so we want to try and get in students' mind that you can't, just because something's hard, you work at it, and so that's really the idea with this class. I've been perusing all of the biggest high schools in the state, their course handbooks, looking for something like this, like Spash, Oshkosh, Appleton, and I'm not finding any of these schools to be offering an intro to organic chemistry, so definitely something unique that our school could have, so very excited to see where that goes. In the social studies department on page 30, we are going to be introducing 2 new transcribe courses. I'm working on getting the official yes, but I've got the very strong preliminary yes, your teachers will be qualified and will meet HLC requirements in order to teach these classes. The first being Intro to American Government. Mike Cruz has a very strong passion for American government, and very conveniently has an opening in his schedule for next year. So, and we had a Principles of American Law class this year, so looking to, for those students who took the class this year, hopefully next year they can build on those topics that they studied this past year. Then on the next page is Intro to Diversity Studies. This course is for a student who's going to NWTC, oftentimes a requirement for graduation in their program. It's actually a class that this spring, through the Start College Now program that we offer, we have 5 to 6 students enrolled in this class at about $500 a head per student that the district is paying for. So we are working at getting Alex Van Lannen accredited, so that way he can teach the class here in school and hopefully save the district just a little bit of money, and then just they can have that in-person education experience. Then the art department is getting a very strong facelift on page 34. For the better part, we are reterming and redoing the scope and sequence in the art department. We're gonna be having an art foundations class, which will be open to middle school. That will be, for the better part, the only one that middle school students will be in. But it'll kind of serve as a prerequisite for all other courses moving forward. We're gonna be introducing back yearbook and design for helping students get involved in some school pride there. And then also a transcribed course, Photoshop fundamentals, so with NWTC. Deb Moorbacher is going to be taking the course hopefully this summer, so that way she'll be ready, set to teach it next year. So that's, for the better part, all of our courses. I did list a few other opportunities in the course handbook this year. Spelled out some more verbiage about the Start to College Now program, which we're having a very strong showing in for this semester. I want to say there's about 10 different kids who have put in applications for different courses, whether that be CNA in medical terminology, Intro to Cybersecurity and IT, Abnormal Psychology, Developmental Psychology, Intro to Ethics Studies, and then College 101, which is the core requirement for any program at NWTC. So all students who are planning to go to NWTC are taking that for the better part. Also put in some verbiage about the Rising Phoenix program. We had a presentation last week by our personal student success coach for all sophomores, interested sophomores who would like to potentially take part in this program for next year. And there's a lot of strong interest. I want to say I could see at least 10 sophomores, if not more, applying for this. They're currently in the application period now. Applications are due March 20th. And then included also a little blurb about RVA and the ability that RVA has to provide students education outside of our doors. So obviously, we can only offer so many different topics, but students who are interested in maybe a career in criminal justice or law, there are classes for them. Students who are interested in civil, environmental engineering, we definitely have a student who's going to be taking an intro to engineering course through RVA, just to kind of, he's a senior, so he wants to learn just a little bit more about what school's gonna look like next year for him. And then also some additional independent options, say if there's a scheduling conflict and a student really wants to take a certain topic, we're hopefully able to get them in that course in graduation. Also put in a little spot about the Kewaunee County course handbook, which I believe has probably been brought to you and you're made aware of, so making our students aware of that opportunity as well. And it is my plan to reach out to the other counselors throughout the county to make sure that we are equally, supporting and promoting these opportunities, because I know Erin Blown especially wants to get the early childhood education class out there. She would love for some students across the county to come in and take those courses with her, so I'm going to be working with the other counselors within the district to really make the opportunity known, and trying to also schedule the courses on beginning and end of the day so that it makes it more feasible for students to travel between districts.
It was pretty impressive in terms of the list of courses, how many are being offered by Algoma. Just in terms of the shared school experience. And then just to share a little conversation you and I had before the meeting started, when I was saying, this is so impressive, makes me want to go back to school. But it's organized so nicely in terms of where they get credit for NWTC and UWGB, but you made a comment about what the technical school has said to you, and I thought it would be nice to share that with the group.
Yes, we have, I communicate back and forth with NWTC reps weekly, but we've had, Dave, Jesse, and I have had multiple conversations now with some of the more upper administration at TC who are helping us implement these courses and just understand a little bit more about all the offerings. And they repeatedly say that Algoma has some of the highest number of course offerings, and they are continually blown away by what our small district is offering our students. It truly is amazing. I was looking, they have a whole published brochure that they're working on republishing because there was a printing error. But they did allow us to keep a copy, and some of the bigger schools in even Green Bay have maybe just a few more classes than we offer, but I mean, for the number of students that they have versus us, it's really quite impressive. So this is kind of the bread and butter, my passion of being a school counselor, is finding these opportunities and, you know, putting students on that path for success, and also just taking more with them before they get to that next step, whether that be the workforce, college, technical college, you name it. So Casey did provide an incredible foundation for this book, so she made it very easy to get it all nice and ready for you this year, but I'm definitely excited to see where it can go in the years to come.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we have a lot to be proud of in terms of what we offer our students. Questions by anybody else? Thanks, Courtney. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you, Courtney.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna go home and take care of my little one, because Dad's freaking out.
All right, last thing I have on my report then, just educator effectiveness is something that we will always work on. It's part of a school improvement cycle meaning it never ends. We're just constantly trying to figure out ways to improve. So one of those, as part of that, and anyone that falls into the a probationary teacher has to have multiple pre-announced observations. And so that's something that have completed all except one. Wade Vandervest, for some reason, keeps falling through the cracks. We've had 2 snow days. I had a discipline issue the other day. So, but I also am not too worried about Wade. He's a pretty veteran. So he just got assigned to that cycle because we just restarted the whole educator effectiveness in sort of a more formal way this last year. But anyway, just some themes that are coming out that I think are interesting to pay attention to. We've been working hard through some training from RC through CISA 7 on classroom management strategies. Kind of wrap that up now, and we're looking at something that's really closely related, and that's engagement strategies. What we know is when students are engaged, their behaviors are, their unwanted behaviors are much lower, and their wanted behaviors are much higher. So that's something we're trying to switch gears a little bit now from how do we manage unwanted behaviors to how do we engage kids better to avoid those behaviors in the first place. And then also, when you have a student who just doesn't grasp, like generally we focus on trying to deliver high quality content that's gonna reach 80% of our students. That's kind of the goal. So what do we do with the other 20%? You notice that we have a really high percentage of special ed students in the district. So how do we do a better job at preventing those students from ever getting to special ed? Or if they're in special ed, how do we get them out of special ed? So working on our classroom intervention skills, those are 3 themes then. So the classroom management, class engagement, and then multi-level systems of support, or how do we provide specific interventions to students. So those are just 3 themes that we're going to continue to work on as a district, or as a school building. I just wanted to point that out. That's it. Any other questions?
Sounds good. Thank you. All right, moving on, Pathfinder, Algoma Venture Academy, and Pack of Pups childcare reports.
Yep, so we had our project showcase last Wednesday. It was definitely the best attended one we've had yet. We definitely had over 100 people, which was really great. Thank you to those who came. I thought it went off pretty much without a hitch. So you could definitely tell like the kids who are super prepared and the ones who were not. But it was great. The kids always just end up showing up at the end, like even the ones who during the week were like, oh my god, they're gonna have nothing for the project showcase, and we sitting at an empty table, always end up showing up at the very end, coming out with these really cool things. So I just love to be able to sit back and watch the kids shine and do their thing. So it was by far my favorite project showcase we had, and like I said, the attendance was awesome. So that was really exciting for us and for our kids. Then myself, Abby, Elizabeth, and Penny, and then 5 or 6 of our kids went to
John Dewey in Green Bay, which is one of their charter schools. The staff had gone to their open house prior, and it was not what I expected at all. They have like 150 some kids, and it was just like a zoo, and we're like, oh wow, do we want to go back to visit? And I'm really glad we did, because they're actually very, very similar to us, just on a larger scale. They have their own 3-story building. Like I said, there's 150 kids, but they run their days very similar to us. They have summits, they have different project groups. Each of us got to sit in and kind of shadow a teacher for half the day. Our students got to shadow some of their students, and it was cool for them to be able to connect and be like, oh, there are other kids learning just like we are. Like I said, they're so similar that it was not what we expected at all. So we're definitely gonna be partners with them and continue to work with them in the future. I thought it was interesting, one of their kind of tips, we sat down with their principal, was really great. And she said it was a lot easier when we were smaller. She said now that we're, a bigger school, she said things are just a lot different. And I was like, okay, we get that. I think the original plan for ABA was to try and like up and up and up, like for year 4 was like they wanted to have 80 kids, and we're like, no, like it is nice to stay small. Just to be able to do the projects that the kids are doing, if we continue to add and add and add, I just don't think they'll have the different experiences that they have now. So it was a really great visit. We were supposed to go to Denmark today, but influenza is running wild in AVA right now, and 2 of our staff members are out. So that is that. Pathfinder, they began a new health class with Miss Malone, just to start learning about their physical and mental health. There's such a fun group of kids at Pathfinder right now, and their connection with Miss Malone has been great. She's kind of been a godsend for them. So they're continuing to work with her. And we've had 2 students graduate at semester early. One of them is now employed with HATCO already, so that is really awesome that they were able to, it was an open enrolled student actually, and come to Pathfinder and graduate earlier than expected, and to already be on their way with a really great job at HATCO. So it's just the stories we like to hear coming out of there.
Yeah, the project showcase was so fun. I had to ditch out for another meeting, but the kids were so engaged, and I had my littles with me, so I was like, can you explain it in 1st grade lingo? And they all like recalibrated and talked, so that the littles can see what these, people they look up to are doing, and the lettuce, the cat, there's so many cool things.
Oh, yeah, I'm really happy that you were able to go. Did anybody else on the board?
I went also.
Okay.
I took my son, he liked that rice thing.
What?
The rice, letters and rice, he was all over that, so.
Yeah,
That's really fun.
it gives you a whole different understanding of the charter school once you go to one of these projects.
But like Chrissy said, I mean, she explained it to me differently than a 5-year-old, which is really good at that age, so.
The dementia walkthrough, I did the whole thing, got all dressed up and stuff, and I think that would be beneficial, like if Kenzie wants to start training people on that, like, I know you guys said that they went to Luxembourg or something to get that, I think that would be something if she wanted to expand that, or.
Yeah, the 2 hours that they have goes
It went so
like,
fast.
yeah. I mean, when we've gone in the past, and of course, we were disappointed that you scheduled it during school board convention, but, we get there when it started, and we wouldn't even necessarily get all the way through by the time it ended, because, like you said, engaging with the students is the best part. It's like, what were you, trying to prove with this, and what standards did you meet with it? And, just getting them talking about it, they're so excited about their projects and things, so, yeah. Good, so I'm glad you guys were able to go. And were some of the staff members, did you get some attendance from some of the staff?
Dave came there, there was 4 members of the high school that came.
Becky from the cafeteria at the elementary school
Oh.
came. I saw some other.
Her son
community
is an
people there.
ABA, so.
Okay, I saw a few other faces, I was like, oh, why are you here?
It definitely answers a lot of questions of people that don't really understand what it's all about. So the more people we can get in, so hey, having a large attendance, that's wonderful to hear.
Yeah, it was really great.
All right, any other questions for Katie? All right, we will move on to Marie's special ed wellness report.
I'm gonna kick it over to Nurse Tori over here who's gonna start us off.
So thank you for your time today. I'm just gonna talk a little bit about emergency nursing services here at school. I attended a CISA 7 school nurses meeting, I would say, in the beginning of November of this school year. And that was with Louise Wilson. She is our state DPI nurse, school nurse consultant. And she was talking about Section G of the School District Standards of Wisconsin State Legislature, which says that we have to have emergency nursing services here at school, which we do. And that these are implemented by the school district board and meets all the following requirements. You guys have this piece of paper?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're following 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I don't believe we're following Section 6, which states, a review and evaluation by the school board shall be made by the emergency nursing services at least annually. And I'm not sure if this was done previous to me because I didn't see any documentation of it. It's just kind of stating that we're reviewing these emergency nursing services, which I do yearly. This is only my second year, so this was the first year I renewed them. And that you guys agree with how we're running our school nursing program here at school and the school-sponsored activities. And it's just kind of that you guys agreed to it, and you would just have to sign it annually so that I can submit it.
So that was something that was told you that we all have to sign this, or just approve it at a meeting?
Approve, I would say probably at the beginning of the school year, like August time, just that you guys approve that we're following the emergency nursing services by having a registered nurse in the school, and that we're doing all of the school-sponsored activities and training any like coaches or anything like that, which I do. And then that we provide for illness, accident, injury, emergency care plans, health plans for certain students with complex medical needs, as well as medication administration, which we do already. It's just pretty much the reviewing
Who
of that.
is the licensed physician, medical?
It's Sarah
advisor?
Sanchez. She's our medical advisor for the school. She's Bellin.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, she was before I started here. And the old school nurse kind of said that, oh, she's our medical advisor. You just have to send these papers to her. She signs them. She reviews them all. Not sure if we have like a contract with them. Totally.
She was on our health committee call.
I think she just does it
After that
free
was-
to the district. I know she is Kiwanis and Luxembourg's, so I think she just kind of does it out of service to her own contract.
I think it's included as part of our Bellin contract.
Okay.
So up on top, the emergency nurses service during regular school day and during sponsored student activities. Is Bellin's athletic director considered okayed for that also then?
Mhm.
Good, okay.
Yeah.
Cause you're not gonna be here for
No.
everything.
And it's kind of getting people like, so if they have a complex medical need, that say their coaches know about it, or that their parents make the coaches aware, or that they're like have, say, a seizure or diabetes or stuff like that.
Or Nina and him.
Yeah, that too. Pretty tough.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Don't think so.
Would this have been reviewed by the policy committee?
It's one of our policies.
We're gonna look at before the start of each year.
Yeah, it was last revised in March, so we must have. But I didn't know that it needed to be submitted, that we reviewed it
It was,
every year.
I was like, when they started talking about it, I'm like, oh, I didn't know about that. Like, there's a lot of different things to school nursing than hospital nursing, that's for
Right.
sure. Not a loss.
More paperwork, are you saying?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. The only other things that I have for tonight are special ed related.
Just a couple staffing updates. I know it's been kind of a whirlwind with the special ed staff forever. But we still do have a vacancy for 7th and 8th grade special ed teacher position that has been kind of absorbed by our 3 other special ed teachers up at this building, Nanette Colm, Aletta Young, and Maddie Obry. They've been phenomenal at being flexible and rearranging their schedules and support and just doing whatever they can to ensure that our students have what they need. I attempted to try and be a special ed teacher and a director again, and it just was crazy. So I'm really grateful for their support and help. We have one of our paraprofessionals is due with her third or fourth child, I think third child, any day now. So we have Elizabeth Sawyer, Elizabeth Sawyer, who is set up to be her sub while she is on maternity leave, and she's had the opportunity to kind of sub in some different areas, and has experience as a paraprofessional and even has a son with special needs. So she's got some great experience. She's been awesome, just kind of jumped right in there, and she's been awesome. And then I'm really excited to announce that Mr. Robertson's sister is going to travel from out of state to come help us out for a long-term maternity leave starting in April. Kaden Shaw is expecting her third child, and Sarah, is it Hines? Hines will be taking over for her when she is out. So that feels really good to have some coverage there. As for special ed enrollment, I looked at some numbers today. Sometimes they change based on initial evaluations, or if a student is dismissed or goes from an IEP to a 504 plan, so the numbers can vary. But as of today, we have 116 students in special education. I noticed that my enrollment number that I calculated was different than Jesse's, so I probably made an error, so I apologize. So roughly, I was on Power School really quick right before the 14th. So roughly 18 or 19% of our student population does have an individualized education program or individualized education plan, or is in special education. So far this school year, we've had 17 initial referrals, 2 of those being preschool transitions. So that is a student, or not a student, a child that received birth to 3 county services, and then they are referred to our school district for an evaluation to see if they qualify for early childhood special education services by the time they turn 3. Within the Algoma school district, we have had 11 referrals within the first semester. St. Paul's private school, we've had 4, and 3 speech and language only referrals. For 3-year reevaluations, for the school year, there are 28, with 4 of those being speech and language only. With that being said, our school psychologist is quite busy. That averages to about maybe 3 or 4 a month for her within the 9-month school year. I then kind of broke down by staff, what our special education staff are currently doing, what their caseloads look like. I have myself there. Haley Vasky is our school psychologist. She takes care of the majority of the referrals and evaluations, unless they are speech and language only. We have 3, you heard that right, 3 speech and language pathologists for our district, which is amazing. Ashley Brown, her role is primarily doing the evaluations. She does private school services through St. Paul's, as well as our middle and high school speech and language services. So her caseload right now is about 28 students, 2 of those being at the private school. Angela Marks is also a speech language pathologist. She has 28 kids on her caseload, and that's primarily at the elementary school. And as you know, Amy Koshart has some contracted out time at Kiwani. So 35 students on her caseload, 21 of those being over in Kiwani. Chrissy was talking about CSIS itinerant services. We do take advantage of their special education itinerant services. We have OTs, PTs, OT assistants, PT assistants. We have a total of 4 staff that are working with us contracted this year. We have 27 students that receive occupational therapy 2 times a week. We have an occupational therapist on site, and 12 students that receive physical therapy, and that is 1 time a week. We also have 2 students that have DHH, or deaf and hard of hearing, and an audiologist. Sorry, I'm speaking faster than, my brain's going faster than my mouth can speak, which is also a contracted service through CESA 7 and 8. I won't go through everything on the back, but this is just kind of a breakdown of our special education teachers. I'm just gonna highlight where there's the asterisks that shows an added on amount of students that some of the middle and high school special education teachers have taken on. As you see, Maddie Obrey and Nanette Holm have quite large caseloads right now because they have absorbed from the vacancy. There were 12 students on the caseload of the vacant special ed teacher. Then I just have a list of our paraprofessionals and what case managers they work with. So just kind of a little fact sheet reference for you to see our special education department. Any questions on all of those numbers?
I'm thinking that one of the things I saw in the latest CESA 7 bulletin that we get was that they have free supportive kinds of instruction for new special ed
The
employees.
induction program, is that what you're referring to?
Maybe. Have we ever taken advantage of that?
So that's a brand new program that they're implementing, and
Okay.
it's very similar to, UW-Madison did an ACRES, I believe, ACRES project program, which 3 of our special ed teachers last year took part of.
Okay.
A lot of young, Kaden Shaw and Maddie Obrey they were new teachers that did the license with stipulations, so they were able to do that program to get both kind of a monetary incentive as well as coaching sessions and just
Okay.
kind of teaching into the role of special education.
So CESA's just gonna offer some of that same stuff?
Yep, so they did offer it. We didn't have any teachers that qualified for their first year requirement, but it's definitely a success so far from what I've heard.
How does that 18% number compare to districts around us or statewide?
It's a great question. It really varies. I feel like the need for special education and the numbers across the state continue to rise, as well as the number of staff continuing to decline. So it's very much a problem, but I don't have any exact percentages for you, but if you did look statewide, it's definitely up there.
I think traditionally, we've always been on a little bit on the high side.
I'll Google it later. I just didn't know if anyone had some numbers.
Well, we've always consistently been right around 20%.
Anything else from you? Thank you. All right, any other items for discussion?
Can we talk about the March board meeting? It is the Monday of spring break. It's hard to have a board meeting when there's no school and we want to go somewhere. I'm assuming some of you guys are gonna take a spring break maybe? Do you like that week? So,
Would we meet the Monday before or the Monday after?
I don't know what you guys have previously done or if that's fallen.
I have it put down for the 18th. That's what we normally
If you
do.
wanna move it to there, that's great. Or if it was already done.
I thought that was at a previous board meeting.
I couldn't find it anywhere, but.
I think.
So spring break is the week of the 25th?
Yes.
And I was gonna say, I thought that maybe the March meeting was one of those we.
Maybe it
changed
was
in the
before
I
middle
got
of time.
I got the 18th.
Okay,
I think so, yeah.
alright, might have been before my time, cause I could not find that. Thank you.
You wanna switch stuff up right away.
I just don't wanna be here on spring break.
All right, we'll move on to action items. I need a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes of December 18th, 2023, and the special board meeting minutes of January 8th, 2024.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Ann, seconded by Chris Schlag. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. I need a motion to approve bills that were presented to us.
So moved.
Second.
Made by Pat, seconded by Chris Benish. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. I need a motion to approve the designated number of regular education spaces available for the 2024-25 school year that were presented to us by Jesse earlier. Need a motion?
So move.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Lonnie, seconded by Chrissy. Any further questions or discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the designated number of special education spaces available for the 2024-25 school year, as presented to us earlier.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Pat, seconded by Chris Benish. Questions or discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the designated number of Algoma Venture Academy spaces available for 2024-25 school year. Move. Okay, motion made by Chrissy, seconded by Ann. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the 2024-25 course handbook for the Algoma Middle High School.
So move. Second.
Motion made by Chris Schley, seconded by Lonnie. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve Candor Health Education Curriculum in grades 4 through 8 for human growth and development.
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Chris Benish, seconded by Chrissy. Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I need a motion to approve the purchase of a new van from Dorsch Ford Kia in the amount of $40,840.
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Chris, seconded by, Chris Benish, seconded by Chris Sly. Questions or discussion on that? That is something that has been budgeted for a long time. I'm glad we finally found one. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Any requests for future agenda items? One thing we will put on is our report from the convention. All right, I need a motion to go into executive session under Wisconsin statute 19.85, subsection 1 C, E, F, and I, for the purpose of personnel matters, hire, staffing, and investigations.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Chrissy, seconded by Lonnie. Roll call vote, Lonnie.
Yes.
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 And Pat.
Yes.
And I also say yes.